Hello, brothers and sisters. The title of the message today is Returning to the Source of Life, Book 2, The New Creation, number 6, Word Became Flesh, number 3. In the beginning stage of our church, we had a summer retreat as we put on a large tent near the riverside of Mungyang City. One pastor took part in our summer retreat. He was a retired pastor. He received the respect from many people because of his decent character. One time he took part in our church fellowship in Chungju City. He listened to the testimonies of our brothers and felt our brothers' testimonies were mysterious. So he took part in our summer retreat also. But one of our brothers shouted out loud, "Our Pastor Lee is Christ." So he faltered. It became an obstacle to him. I felt sorry about him. Suppose he really knew me, he didn't need to be faltered. I visited him many times. He asked me, "How can you deliver a message in such a noisy environment?" It was raining outside. Little kids made a lot of noise in the tent during the summer retreat. He also read many Watchman Nee books. I thought he had a positive thought toward me and liked our message. But one day our brother visited him. He said, "If you are going to talk about Reverend Lee again, don't come to visit me again. I am just a plain man. Suppose he really knew me, he would not become faltered. Maybe he was worrying about me. He maybe thought about me that I might have become a cult leader. But I'm a human being. How can I fly up to heaven? How can I go down below the earth? I am just a human being anyway." That brother called me Christ because he saw something heavenly that appeared from me. Man can become that way. Brothers can call me God, even though the fact I am not God. I'm still a human being. As we are God's image, God appears through ourselves. Suppose Jesus did not turn plain water into wine. How can we meet God who can turn plain water into wine? We should not think we are not human beings, as God created us as His image. If it is necessary, He can use us this way or that way. As God could not meet that kind of man, He could not do that. Among people who receive God's calling, there are many of them as such. Let's look at Moses. Moses said, "How can I go to Pharaoh? A man like me, how can I say to Pharaoh, 'Let my people go'?" He said that he could go. He couldn't go. But God said, "I will make you God in front of Pharaoh." When Pharaoh looked at Moses and thought he was a human being, he then did not obey absolutely, but he obeyed to Moses when he looked him as God. But then he thought about it over and over again. He is not God, but a human being. After he let people go, so he chased after the people of Israel with his army. But at the Red Sea, he met God again. Moses is a human being apparently, but through him God appeared. He had to kneel down before Moses. If not, would Pharaoh kneel down before Moses? He had to free 2 million slaves because of Moses, who came as the leader of Israel, dispatched by God. When Pharaoh looked at Moses, he was apparently God. But later he was again human being. That's why he chased after Moses again. God made Moses as God before Pharaoh. We also can become God in some cases. In front of other people, we may not become as great as Moses, but some people can look at ourselves as God. It is possible. I experienced that kind of experience in Chungju City. CCC Chungju branch office was located in the largest Methodist church in Chungju, Jecheon, Jungwon, and Danyang. It was the mother church. It was the largest church in Chungbu province. It had 150 years of history. I just talked with the pastor of that church maybe for 5 or 10 minutes. He committed that church to me for 6 months. I don't belong to Methodist Church. I'm just a step member of Campus Crusade for Christ. But he committed that church to me. All the VIPs of Chungju City all attend that church. How could he commit that church to me for 6 months? Before that, he asked me to move CCC office to a different place. CCC is too noisy. Members of that church didn't find any virtues and too complicated. And deacon committee decided to order us to move out from their church. But I told them about the dream of Campus Crusade for Christ, Christianizing Korean Peninsula project. After listening to my explanation, he was telling me, let's try to work together again. So I didn't need to move out. I didn't know how he could become positive so suddenly. Next day, he came to me and said, I have to take part in a certain program in Toronto, Canada, for 6 months. I didn't know who to commit this church for 6 months. I was agonized for a while, but after I listened to you, I decided to commit our church to you for 6 months. So I was able to minister that church for 6 months, which is the center church in that district. I stayed there for 2 years. It was the greatest blessing as a step Campus Crusade for Christ. I had to mobilize so many people for Explo 74, greatest crusade in Korea. Mobilizing people is one of the most difficult things. Chungju, Jungwon, Jecheon, and Danyang is such a large area. And if I visit a country area church for Explo 74 mobilization, it took a whole day. I visited 2 churches and I gave up. But as I had to minister that large church for 6 months, about 3,000 people took part in Explo 74. Neighboring step member was so much shocked. I could not mobilize that many people. Methodist Church are good at being united together, as a member of Mother Church took part in Explo 74. Other district churches took part in also automatically. Wow, we can do something. We are not God. We are human beings, but God can use us that way. My story is nothing. There are so many more amazing stories in the world. Reverend Jun Gon Kim went to America to get money donation in order to build Campus Crusade headquarters building in Jeongdong, Seoul, Korea. He met one American man and he offered all the necessary money. It was a huge concrete cement building. One man paid all the necessary expenses. Such kind of things can happen in any place. Some can perform much greater things also. Jesus said, those people who believe in me can carry out such kind of work like mine, and some people will be able to carry out much greater work than mine. It was quite natural for Jesus to express God while he was living on the earth. Therefore, we must express God in the natural way. Jesus expressed the true man after he died. We did not know what kind of man is the true man who God had created. We have never met that very man who God had created, and God became extremely joyous. But then Jesus expressed that man after he died. There is a clearer evidence than this. They called him God, God's Son, and Christ. But he was crucified and died without any protesting. He was just a man. People's death is kind of natural. If any man is crucified, they will all die. It's natural. But then a man like Jesus died. When other people looked at him, he was just like God, but he died. Therefore, Jesus showed the fact that he was a man clearly. Now nobody can say he's God. Any kind of amazing work, even greater work than Jesus had done. Nobody can say, I am God. Jesus said, even though the fact I'm a man. Jesus saved the life of a man who had died for 4 days, Lazarus. Even though Jesus had saved a man's life for 4 days or for 1 month who died, Jesus could have said, I'm still a man. Thus Satan could not come anymore. Satan could not deceive Jesus anymore, saying, if you do this or do that, you can become like God. Satan could not deceive Jesus anymore. If you understand Jesus is a man, we cannot be deceived by Satan. Satan may be trying to deceive us by bringing something, and if you do this and you can become like this, but we cannot be deceived. Jesus is a man. What kind of other thoughts can be possessed? Jesus testified the fact that he's one of God's creatures as he died. He clearly testified the fact that he himself is a man who was created as God's image. He did not allow us to think about, if I try something, it may be possible for me to become like God. When Satan said, you'll become like God, suppose Adam did not have any possibility in himself, he would have not heard Satan's words. But Adam felt as if he had a possibility. That's why he heard Satan's word and took the fruit of good and evil. If people don't have any possibility, nobody can persuade them. If people have no capability at all, they cannot invest in the stock market or at the real estate market or gambling. But if people have any capability at all, they cannot invest any money. Those people who think about Jesus, are you really a human being or do you have possibility of becoming God? They are really foolish people. What kind of work we can achieve or we can reach to the supernatural realm? We are still human beings. The field may be producing expensive fruits. The field is still soil. If the field may be producing golden apples, can field turn to gold? No. Field is just the soil. It will never be changed. Whether field produces rice, beans, or red beans, it is still soil. Even though it may produce rice, soil doesn't become rice. This is the meaning of the image. Right here, there is a humbleness and meekness. Even though we may try to become humble and meek, we cannot become truly humble and truly meek. Even though some people may try their best to become truthful, but other people criticize them as hypocrites. Those people who declare out loud in public that they are perfect, once some problems arise, they have no place to go because they cannot find a solution. That's why they have no other solution but to commit suicide. I think those people who commit suicide, they are truthful. Those people who cannot take the responsibility for their declaration. Some people make excuses, but it would be better for them to commit suicide. If they declare loudly in public that they are perfect, they have no place to go later. Thank you. Hallelujah. May God bless every one of you. Thank you again. Thank you. Thank you.